Welcome everybody to the Cupertino Planning Commission of Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. I hope you will join us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Fung?
Here.
Commissioner Linskog?
Here.
Commissioner Sharf?
Here.
Vice Chair Kasolcharan?
Here.
Chair Rao?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the May 13th, 2025 minutes. If commissioners may take a moment to read, and if I can have a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Linskog. Thank you, Chair Commissioner Sharf. I see you're ready to go. Let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. I believe we have no postponements of the day, so the next item is oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the Commission on any matter within the jurisdiction of the Commission and not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. In most cases, state law will prohibit the Commission from making any decisions with respect to a matter not on the agenda. Unless there are separate discussions and or actions requested by council, staff, and or a member of the public, it is requested that items under the consent calendar be acted on simultaneously. Something new, I guess. Very good. Madam City Clerk, do we have any oral comments?
We have one speaker in person and one speaker remotely. Our first speaker is Haziq. Welcome.
Welcome, Haziq.
Do I stand there? Sorry. Okay.
Are you looking to share a presentation?
It's a speech.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I want you to meet someone very special to me. My kid. Isn't he cute? Just like this little guy, millions of animals depend on us every day for love, care, and safety. But sadly, not all of them get that chance. In the US, about 10 million animals suffer from animal abuse each year. That's one every minute. And most of this happens quietly. Neglect, isolation, or being adopted by people who aren't ready. That's why I'm here to say we need mandatory background checks for pet adoptions. If we already do background checks for jobs, childcare, and housing, why not for pets? They rely on us completely. When we fail them, they suffer. Here in San Jose, this is urgent. In May 2025, a dog named Lola died at the San Jose Animal Care Center after getting tangled in her IV catheter. Other animals like Rufus and Chucky also died under concerning shelter conditions. A recent city audit found that SJACC overcrowded 900 animals in a space meant for 500, with reports of poor care. These tragedies have been prevented. Could have been prevented. Take Justice, a dog found in Connecticut with a metal chain so tight it grew into his neck. His owner faces charges, but what if Justice hadn't been found? What if he hadn't been rescued? Adoption is a lifelong commitment. People sometimes lie on applications. In 2018, Cheryl Beatty adopted a dog but broke the rules and lied about her past pet's deaths. Her new dog, Lamsey, could have been the next victim. Every emotional neglect hurts. Max returned after 8 years. Stopped eating. Sally, a senior dog, was returned the day after adoption because of allergies. These animals feel heartbreak. Pets aren't just animals, they're family and emotional anchors for people too. If we don't act, abuse will grow. By 2040, there could be 900 to 1,000 cases of animal abuse every day. Thousands of lives shattered. So I ask you, what if every adopter had to prove that they were ready? What if we stopped abuse before it even started? What if background checks became standard? Because all animals deserve safety, love, and respect. Let's be their voice before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeke. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk,
We have one speaker remotely, David. Welcome, David.
Good evening. I'm here to speak again about the proposed development on Evelich Court. It's been several months and many of us are still waiting for answers. Residents have repeatedly asked about the status of the project, where it stands in the process, and we haven't heard a lot back from the planning department. And our concerns haven't changed. If anything, they've grown. The project continues to sit in one of the most fire-prone zones in the city. The state fire marshal designated it a very high fire hazard severity zone just months ago. And that alone should pause any fast track approval, but the conversation hasn't kept pace. The housing element was certified before that designation, and the project still hasn't gone through a full EIR. In fact, just today, the city mailed notices confirming the CAL FIRE's new fire hazard map, and that it's being formally adopted. In fact, the letter itself says that Cupertino has no authority to downgrade the designation of the fire risk. So, while we keep hearing that the city is boxed in by state law, when it's evaluating the housing element, but if we considered a letter from a state fire marshal that the city cited, if we even look to what's happening in San Diego, just this month there's a active dispute over whether a developer could skip an environmental review, even though the project was under similar SB 330 and so forth. And so, we can't ignore the risk. We have to balance the priorities responsibly. I would also remind everyone that very close by is the Vista Heights proposal, which is right next to Linda Vista Park. This is, probably 500 feet away from the Evelich project, and that matter is still active. It's a reminder that we need to take a firm position on these projects before they gain momentum. We should be doing everything that we can to make sure that Vista Heights does not prevail. And if it does, it sets a pretty dangerous precedent for us, even in our most fire-prone, access-limited area. So, I'll close with this. Residents aren't trying to fight the housing. We're trying to prevent a disaster. When wildfire zones are in play, the burden of proof should be very high. And we, again, reiterate our request for an EIR. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We have one more hand raised on Zoom, Lisa. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. First, I want to applaud the young man who was speaking about animal care and safety, and thank you for doing that. Did a great job. And secondly, I just want to echo what David just said about both properties. And I'm glad he's continuing to remind, and I'm assuming that most of you agree that something should be happening sooner about doing something that will correct some big issues, if possible. So everyone gets frustrated when these things drag in and drag out, and in between agenda items, it just sort of gets ignored from meeting to meeting if it's not on an agenda. And I'm glad that there's people that aren't forgetting to be reminder people. That's it.
Thank you, Lisa. There are no hands raised on Zoom and no speaker cards in person.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. The next item on the agenda is Agenda Item 2, a public hearing. This is an R1 exception to allow a detached garage to be attached to the primary dwelling unit, creating a reduced side yard setback for a portion of the principal dwelling unit. application EXE 2025-002. The location is 890 Brent Drive. Is there a staff report?
Good evening, Planning Commission.
And if I may pause real quick, is there any ex parte communications that staff or that commissioners might have? Any contact with the applicant? I will disclose I drove by the property and had a chance to visually inspect the property and sort of walk the block in the neighborhood, and did not run into the applicant or did not run into the neighbors, but did have a chance to look at the property.
Yeah, I did the same and did not talk to anybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Scharf. And with that, over to staff.
Thank you. I did want to introduce Jelani, who will help us walk us through this project, and this is the first time that he's presenting. He's one of our newer assistant planners, so please welcome Jelani and as he walks through this presentation.
Welcome, Jelani. That makes two of us.
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. So as Pew mentioned, my name is Jelani Mora, Assistant Planner, and today I'll be presenting our one exception, permit number EXE 2025-002 at 890 Brent Drive. So the subject of today's exception, as mentioned, is to consider an addition between the existing principal dwelling and an existing detached garage, creating a reduced side yard setback for a portion of the property. So Chapter 1928, the section that regulates single-family dwelling units, requires a 15-foot combined yard setback for new developments and for many kind of additions or things of that nature, with no side yard less than 5 feet. So by proposing to attach the detached garage to the principal dwelling, that would create a reduced side yard setback and the need for the permit. So in the audience today, we have the applicants, Zhen Chen and Meng Wu, here to answer any questions that the commission may have, and they also have a short presentation that I'll be sharing after mine. On to the project site, located at 890 Brent Drive. It's within the South Blaney neighborhood. It's zoned R16 residential single family, and the 6,089 square foot single family lot was created through subdivision in 1958 while the parcel was still within the city of San Jose. Later that same year, it was developed with a 1,200 square foot single family home and a 444 square foot detached garage, also using the city of San Jose's development regulations. So I will note that homes within the area, within the immediate neighborhood, were developed with a few configurations and models. Some were developed with an attached garage, front entering garage, some with a side entering attached garage, and in the case of the project site, some were developed, a few on the lot, or a few on the block were developed with a detached garage, single family residential configuration. The parcel was annexed into the city of Cupertino in 1979. Therefore, the city's regulations apply to any new developments or additions proposed. Getting into the project scope, the project proposes a 1,059 square foot addition consisting of a 327 square foot addition behind the detached garage and in between the detached garage and principal dwelling, highlighted in blue. A 650 square foot addition to the front of the existing principal dwelling, also attached to the garage, and an 82 square foot porch front entry feature, as well as a remodel of the existing residence. Moving on to the setbacks. The project, the addition, proposes to retain the 23-foot 1-inch setback at the front of the house. That is currently the front setback from the detached garage. There's no reduction proposed there. Same with the rear of the property. There's no structural changes or addition proposed that would reduce the 23-foot 7-inch setback. The addition also proposes to continue the 5-foot 4-inch setback on the right side of the property. The left side of the property, measured from the existing home, will also retain a 7-foot 4-inch setback with no reduction there. The currently detached garage that is proposed to be connected to the principal dwelling will have a 5-foot setback. Conditions have been placed on the project in order to ensure that the setback is not reduced, the wall plane height is not altered in any significant way, and the detached garage retains its interior dimensions. So the addition area between the section in blue and the side yard setback, or the property line, is proposed at 9 feet 8 inches, and that is to reduce the degree of nonconformity rather than continuing the current setback of 7 feet 4 inches. It has been increased to meet the combined 15-foot side yard setback for that portion of the addition, making the only portion of the home that is nonconforming be that a portion of that detached garage on the left-hand side, which is shown by that line in orange there. Anything, or the portion of which is on the left side of that line, is the area of the detached garage which is considered non-conforming on a technicality. Once again, no changes proposed to the footprint of the existing detached garage. I will also mention that a similar project was approved by the Design Review Committee in 2010. It also connected a detached garage to the principal dwelling, creating a reduced side yard setback. And that happened at 874 Brent Drive, just 4 parcels north of the project site. And some photos for context. So image 1 shows the current state of the detached garage. And image 2 also shows the detached garage, but more so from that property line on the left-hand side to give a little bit of the neighbor's perspective. So you can see there's a large shrub that will help to mitigate the proposed addition. In the event, or if that shrub were to be removed, the fence and also the detached garage itself helps to mitigate that rear addition. In the front, the applicants are proposing a more modern design. So the vertical architectural features that you see above the garage door are proposed to be removed in order to create a cohesive, more modern look when that addition is proposed, if it is approved. Moving on to public comment. There were no public comments received as of this morning, Tuesday, May 27th. The applicants have also indicated that they reached out to their neighbor on the left-hand side at 886 Brent Drive in order the parcel that would be most impacted by the potential connection of the garage, and they've indicated that there were no significant concerns raised by those neighbors. The project is exempt under CEQA existing facilities. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA and approve permit number EXE 2025-002 based on the draft resolution. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I will, in a minute, prepare the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Are there questions for staff?
So what is the new lot coverage percentage?
Yes, so that is lot coverage is proposed to be 44.9%. The applicants are utilizing their the new lot coverage is 49%. The applicants are using a portion of that, which is allowed by the R1 code for their eaves area. So excluding the eaves, it is 44.9%.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I just had a quick clarifying question. So I understand that the total setback should add up to, on the sides, should add up to 15 feet with a minimum of 5. Is the 10 feet on northeast actually a requirement, or is that sort of case by case determined by staff?
So the applicants can pick, the minimum is 5. So you could have a 7 and an 8 foot setback. In this case, because they have a 5'4" on the south side, the north side is required to be 9 feet 8.
Okay.
If no other questions, I did have a couple of questions. So what kind of noticing happens with this project?
Sure. So notices were sent to adjacent residences, as well as a site sign that was posted in front of the property about 2 weeks before this meeting.
And the distance in that case is what now, 500, 300?
It's adjacent.
It's adjacent, okay. And we have received no feedback from any of the neighbors, okay.
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm curious, you had 2 images, and the image on the left, having just walked the site today, on the left you actually do not see the detachment from the property, but on the right you do see the detachment from the property. I'm curious if you had images from the right-hand side of the property where you do see the sort of the detachment between the garage and the dwelling unit?
Right. Not included in this presentation. I can pull some up. I believe I do have some photos. I'll get back to you on that one.
And I believe there was a comment made about the street at 874 Brent had a exception that was approved, and that was back in 2010. Okay. All right. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. If no other questions, does the applicant have a presentation or would like to make any comments?
Hi, good evening, planning commissioners and planning department staff and our dear neighbors. I'm Men Wu, and I'm here with my husband Jin Chen. We're the owners at A90 Brent Drive, and we're here tonight to give you a brief introduction to our family, and as well as to share some context on why we need to do this home addition project. So as you can see from the pictures, we are a growing family, a 6-person household. So we have 2 young kids. One is 2 years old, the other is only 6 months. And then we also have our parents, i.e. the kids' grandparents, stay with us to help take care of the kids. While we feel incredibly fortunate and grateful to own a house in the Cupertino community, the current space and floor plan of our unit is simply too small for our growing family, and it has, Jelani, can you move on to the next slide? Yeah, and it has created severe living challenges for us. Currently, our 2 kids share rooms with adults, and then our parents, the grandparents, sometimes they have to sleep in the common areas such as the living room, and the lack of the space severely affects the sleep, the development of our kids, as well as the long-term health of our parents. And therefore, we respectfully propose the addition plan that Jelani just walked us through, so that we can create another bedroom and another bathroom, so that our parents, the grandparents, they can have a proper living space, and then our kids can have enough room to have a sustainable and healthy development. And then we also worked with licensed architect and structure engineers to propose the design that stays as a single-story addition to be consistent with the neighborhood character. We believe that it remains modest and visually harmonious with the neighborhood. Last but not least, we are very much committed to being respectful to our neighbors and also contributing positively to our community. So we hope that the Planning Commission and our neighbors here tonight can understand our situation, our hardship, and can support our request for this small but meaningful change. And we hope that this addition project not only benefit our family, but also benefit our community, our neighborhood in the long term as a whole. Thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, very good. So if no questions for the applicant and no questions for staff, I will open the public comments. Do we have any public comments, Madam City Clerk?
We have one hand raised on Zoom. Lisa?
Welcome, Lisa.
Welcome, Lisa.
I didn't have the unmute button available till just now. So having lived here forever, I would applaud these applicants and homeowners for a couple things. Not simply tearing down, giving landfill, waste of things that can be used in their remodel, and also for maintaining a single story in a neighborhood that I'm assuming is mostly single story. And I don't have any way of knowing the height, the ceiling height, and what the height of the building will be, but it will be less than it could be as a two-story. I also believe that I'm not sure if this neighborhood has raised foundations or they're on slab. But when you have a neighborhood that most of the houses are on slab and someone comes in and tears down, they typically raise them and then have tile ceilings. And that's when you get these very out of scale things going on in a neighborhood. And it's happened everywhere, and it's not saying that people can't do what they are allowed to do. It's just I'm finding this very refreshing that they are doing it the way they are and don't see any problem with leaving something. I mean, the problem child in here is the garage being too close, which is already there. So obviously, to me, this is not a huge ask from them, and I wish them well and hope their family is happy in their new home. That's it.
Thank you, Lisa.
We have no speaker cards in person and no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, very good. With that, I will close the public comments and we will open it up for discussions if commissioners have any comments you would like to make. Okay, for the purpose of discussion, let me move the staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh, that's good. That's all right.
All right. We have a second from Commissioner Linskog and Commissioner Funk. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the applicant for the presentation and sharing their personal story.
Wonderful. Any discussion? I have a quiet commission today.
I'd like to commend the applicants as well for, we see a lot of crazy things and things that, I would just like to commend you for, kind of staying within the bounds. Hopefully this was a good, we'll come to a good outcome for you. And I hope that it doesn't end up costing more because of that. I think that will be good. Your attention to that, to the design that you're seeking and reaching out to your neighbors as well is to be commended.
So I'm in the middle of an addition on my house now. So I would say don't be discouraged by how long it may end up taking, because we started ours in October and it's now May, and it probably has at least 3 more months to go. So just be patient. There's a lot of inspections, that you have to go through in stages before it can proceed, and it can be depressing sometimes how long it takes. But yeah, good luck with your project.
Okay, maybe a question for staff. Can you comment on under what circumstances has an R1 exception of this type in the past been denied, if at all?
I think we responded to you earlier on this, Chair. We've only had 14 R1 exceptions since 2005. That's not even one a year. We've also only had one of this nature, which is where a detached garage was attached to the principal unit. So no, we take this pretty seriously. We only support the ones that we think make sense. We actually try to discourage applicants where we recognize that we may not support that exception, so that they don't have to go pay the money, go through the process, and come out not in a positive manner. So we've only had one, and that was approved by the Design Review Committee.
So if I understood that right, you had 14 R1 exception
Of varying kinds.
of varying kinds, but only 2 of a similar kind that involved.
Only one of a similar nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other one.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Wonderful. And is there any simplification staff would suggest of the R1 exception process where this might not need to come to the Planning Commission perhaps?
Yes, there are 2 things that could be done. One could be to amend the ordinance to, consider in similar circumstances, but the other one would be to maybe reduce the approval authority so that staff can administratively handle such exceptions. Those would be my 2, but that is well outside the scope of what we're discussing tonight.
Yep. Always helpful to ask what we could do to save our residents a trip out here, though this is a nice, comfortable place, and always nice to get to know the City Hall and Community Hall. Okay, very good. I see Commissioner Sheriff wants us to move on, unless he was exercising his wrist. All right, we have a motion and a second, so if there's no other questions, which I'm not seeing, let's vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Wonderful. Thank you, commissioners. And with that, we will close the public hearing. I want to thank the applicant for joining us here, for the trouble taken to make the presentation. And I want to thank Jelani for his first session here, and hope you won't be a stranger, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, with that, I think we can move on to the next item on the agenda. And I know we have a light agenda here today. So we have no old business, no new business. Do we have any staff reports?
I can report on 2 items. The city did receive an application for a housing development project on Homestead. That's the Homestead Townhomes. It is available on the city's website if anybody's interested under major projects. And additionally, we have a new website for the update to the health and safety element. There's a new website for that. However, it does provide some helpful links for why we need to do that. But we don't have any information on that just quite yet. And when we will be ready, we will schedule meetings and have more documents for that.
So is that Homestead project the one near the PG&E property that was
Close to
kind of
Sunnyvale.
delayed?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a housing element site, just to put that in perspective.
Okay. Thank you, Pio. Any commission reports? Okay. If no other commission reports, then any future agenda items from commissioners?
I did want to follow up on, there was a public comment regarding Evulich. I don't know if it's possible to have an update on that at all on the agenda.
There's nothing to report on it at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other requests for future agenda items? Okay. If nothing else, I think with that, we are at the end of the meeting and we can adjourn. The meeting is adjourned.